Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Naga Manchetti and Charlie State.
Our headlines today. More money for GPs to see patients face to face, but they'll be named and shamed if they don't offer enough appointments.
5 people are killed and 2 more injured in Norway by a man using a bow and arrow.
Good morning. Another 2 energy firms go bust. Pure Planet and Colorado Energy go out of business, blaming rising costs and the price cap. 250,000 customers are affected. I'll have the details.
Prince William tells the super rich not to engage in a new space race and focus on solving the problems here on Earth instead.
It's the idea that we need some of the world's greatest brains and minds fixed on trying to repair this planet, not trying to find the next place to go and live.
Good morning. The Wales international midfielder David Brooks reveals he's been diagnosed with cancer. He's just 24 and plays for Bournemouth and says he has stage 2 Hodgkin lymphoma and will begin treatment next week.
Good morning. Today, once again, it's going to be a fairly cloudy day with limited sunny spells. We've got some heavy rain, though, coming in across the north of Scotland, slowly slipping south, strong winds with it and cooler behind it. I'll have all the details coming up later in the programme.
Good morning. It's Thursday, the 14th of October. Our main story is that GP practices in England are being offered an extra £250 million this winter to help them see more patients in person.
But the Doctors' Union has criticised a plan to publish league tables on face-to-face appointments, saying it will cause more GPs to leave the profession. Here's more from our health reporter, Jim Reid.
So I got your message just now about the pain in your knee, yeah?
The pandemic has changed the way many of us access a GP. For some, telephone and online consultations have replaced face-to-face appointments. Under these plans, the government says £250 million will be made available to boost access to family doctors in England. It's meant to pay for more temporary or locum GPs, as well as support staff like physiotherapists. There's a promise to cut some red tape and more cash for security at a time when doctors say they're dealing with high levels of abuse. Social distancing rules for GPs are also being reviewed, which could allow more patients in waiting rooms. In a statement, the Health Secretary said, "I'm determined to ensure patients can see their GP in the way they want, no matter where they live." The new cash for GPs, though, is part of a £5 billion COVID fund already announced by ministers to get the NHS through this winter. The Doctors' Union says the package does not go nearly far enough.
After weeks of promising an emergency package to rescue general practice, we're hugely disappointed that whilst additional funding has been promised and there is talk about addressing abuse and talking up the benefits of general practice, the package as a whole offers so little and shows a government completely out of touch with what the scale of the crisis really is on the ground for general practice.
The extra support for GPs in England comes as waiting times in hospital A&E units have also been rising across the whole UK. The group, which represents NHS trusts, is warning today of the most challenging winter yet for the health service. Jim Reid, BBC News.
Let's talk to our political correspondent, Chris Mason. Morning, Chris. So, the idea of more face-to-face appointments, OK, some patients have been asking for that, but still, some GPs reacting, saying they're doing the best they can at the moment.
Yeah, morning to you, Naga. I think the government's latched on to a sense. There's been newspaper campaigns about it and others making the argument that GP surgeries on the whole around England have been too slow in moving back to a kind of pre-pandemic approach to appointments. Now, the Health Secretary makes the argument in one of the newspapers this morning that, look, there is a valuable role for a kind of digital-first approach, that quite a lot of appointments can be done over the phone or over the tablet or whatever, but that there shouldn't be too many blockages standing between you and me ringing our GP and actually physically being able to go in there and see them face to face. So a definite change of tone from Sajid Javid compared with his predecessor Matt Hancock. Mr Javid would argue that times have changed because obviously the limitations on face-to-face contact have eased. And as you say, real concern from GPs who are saying, look, this is a profession already under immense pressure with lots and lots of GPs choosing to leave it. And as we heard there in Jim's report, plenty of doctors saying, look, this really only scratches the surface of plenty of the problems that we face providing general practice, and therefore this is nowhere near good enough.
OK, Chris, thanks very much for taking us through that. We're going to be talking to the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, at 7:30.
Police in Norway say 5 people have been killed and 2 injured by a man armed with a bow and arrow.
Some of the casualties were found in a supermarket in the town of Kongsberg, southwest of Oslo. A 37-year-old Danish man is in custody. The Norwegian Prime Minister described the attack as horrifying.
The Chancellor Rishi Sunak has said British shoppers should be confident there will be enough presents on the shelves for Christmas, despite a logjam at the UK's biggest commercial port, Felixstowe.
He added that the government is doing everything it can to keep supplies moving. The Chancellor has been talking to our economics editor, Faisal Islam.
For a second year, the government's having to talk about saving Christmas. This year, it's the difficulties in global trade leading to tens of thousands of containers full of imports stuck off the coast of Britain, with too few drivers available to drive them on the last leg of their journey. It's not unique to Britain, but the Chancellor in Washington says the whole world can face up to the problems of an economy on the rebound from the pandemic lockdowns.
Well, I'd tell people you should be reassured that we're doing absolutely everything we can to mitigate some of these challenges. They are global in nature, so we can't fix every single problem, but I feel confident that there'll be good provision of goods for everybody. I'm confident there'll be a good amount of Christmas presents available for everyone to buy.
But it's not just the container crisis, with energy prices surging too, more providers going bust and heavy industry begging for support. The Chancellor was more guarded.
If high gas prices put some heavy industry out of business, is that just the market working? Do we have to accept that? Are you going to accept that as Chancellor?
Well, I think as people have seen over the past year, we're prepared to work with business and support them as required. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on particular situation of any individual company. But in general, I believe in a market economy, as that's served us very well in this country. It's not the government's job to come in and start managing the price of every individual product.
Many of these problems are being faced by all the finance ministers of the major world economies, with the Germans fearful of what they call a bottleneck recession.
From shipping lanes to restaurants to car factories, there are astonishing things happening in the world economy right now. And not even here, with the world's most important finance ministers, are they truly sure how this is going to settle down. They hope that it will prove temporary and that the inflation, the rising prices and the shortages will stop. But they can't be sure.
Consumers will be protected, but the government can't stretch that promise to businesses. Faisal Islam, BBC News in Washington, D.C.
Robert Webb has said he deeply regrets having to withdraw from Strictly Come Dancing due to ill health.
Now, the actor, who had open heart surgery 2 years ago, said he thought he was fit enough to take part. But after learning and rehearsing 3 dances, it had become clear he'd bitten off more than he could chew. His professional dance partner, Diane Buswell, says that she feels lucky to call him a friend and wished him a speedy recovery.
Now, not many works of art will treble in value if you put them through a shredding machine, but that is what is expected to happen to a Banksy painting today.
Now, you may remember this moment when it's in 2018, when the painting called Girl with Balloon dropped into a hidden shredder when it had sold for more than £1 million. Now, the work is renamed Love in a Bin, and it's being auctioned at Sotheby's today, where it's expected to fetch well over £3.5 million. I must say, even seeing those pictures now, my heart sinks.
Well, it's agony, isn't it? It's absolutely agony, because
just...
it's how slowly the whole thing unfolds and everyone knows what's going on.
And it's just... Oh. I didn't like it. But it's art. It's all interpretive, isn't it?
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.